Hello, Ramifications fans. My name is Bailey Casey, and I am the art editor at the magazine. And welcome to the first installment of Ramifications Round Table, where we interview professionals and writers alike about literature and the arts. I have today with me Dr. Sandra Meek. It's nice to see you here.
Thank you for having me here.
Of course. She is a Dana Professor of English Rhetoric and Writing, and she has 6 collections of poetry, soon to be 7. And she is a recipient of the Dorset Prize, Lucille Medwick Memorial Award, Independent Publisher Award. She's won the Georgia Author of the Year in Poetry 3 separate times and the Peace Corps Writers Award in Poetry 2 separate times. And she's also been a recipient of the National Endowment of the Arts and Fellowship. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So first, how did you get into writing poetry?
Teenage angst.
Okay, got it. And what do you love about writing poetry?
I love language, but not just for sort of the content that you can have in it, but also just the material music of it. And so I love that poetry has that kind of counterpoint that happens between the sentence and the line. And of course, the line is only in poetry. And so it creates lots of opportunities for shaping things visually, shaping things musically, and also getting your voice out.
Yeah, of course. And why did you want to become a professor in poetry?
I knew I wanted to write poetry. And to do that, I thought I'd need to go to school. And so in graduate school, that was the way, still is the way, to pay your way through is to teach. And so I'd always thought that I was too shy and terrified to teach, but when I had to do it, I did it and realized I could do it. And so being a professor was very attractive because it's the one job I knew of where I could actually be encouraged to write and publish poetry.
Okay, yeah. And what do you think about poetry's popularity today? Is it shrinking? Is it growing?
I think it's definitely growing. It has been growing. I think certainly the last 10, 20 years. And I think there are several important factors for it. I mean, really, at the end of the 20th century, it started with performance poetry, and of course the internet making that so much more accessible, but also rap music. And in the last 10, 20 years, I mean, social media has made it so much easier to share, and people see that it can be very accessible with Instagram poets. And so I think the last NEA report showed the highest number of people who said that they read, saying that they read poetry than has been recorded before.
That's crazy. And then why do you think learning how to write poetry and reading poetry is good for writers of other genres?
The kind of compression that you get with writing poetry is valuable for any genre. I think that if you work with writing poetry, you'll realize things with construction when you go back to prose, like, why am I starting that sentence? There is a, instead of in a more powerful way. So I think the compression, the attention to sound and image, all of that's transferable.
Okay, yeah. And then why do you think writers are scared of writing poetry if they haven't prior?
I think it's probably because of their reading experience. And I do not want to say anything negative about high school teachers that are working with a curriculum that they have to work with, but that curriculum tends to be really old-timey.
Yeah.
And so I think that most kids in junior high and high school don't ever get the chance really to discover that poetry can be anybody's spoken voice. It's not all rhymey and archaic formal language.
Right.
So I think that when people do have a chance to discover the living language of poetry, they feel differently about it.
Yeah. And what should writers know about poetry when they just start out writing it?
but it's awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
They can do anything with it.
Mhm.
You know, you can be anybody. The super cool thing about poetry is like you go to the bookstore, you see nonfiction, fiction, poetry. Right? You don't even have to make a claim whether this is personal or not. So you can write from any perspective, and you can write with any voice. You can cuss. You can do anything that you want with it.
Right. Okay. And then, what do you think the importance of poetry is? Maybe not necessarily just for writers, but in general. What do you think poetry's impact is?
Wow. I think on a sort of society level, it's the place where you can see aesthetic beauty, most combined with reaction to what is going on at the time, politically, socially, and really in every way. So it's a kind of record of how individuals think and process and make beauty out of words that we share, but also all together it tells you something about that society and that culture. And so that's why I think all poetry is valued. Those old timey poets are valuable, but you want to keep it going.
You're right. Okay. And do you have a favorite poet or poem?
I don't, but I have a lot of favorites.
Please give us your favorites.
Some of my favorite poets are Carl Phillip, Paisley Rekdal, Robin Schiff, Jory Grimm. I could go on.
And is there a poem that you feel like has had a distinct impact on your life, or that you're like, oh, this one is like a great example of what poetry should or can be?
Well, a couple of things come to mind. One is a poem that I think other people would answer this question with. And that is the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a modernist poem, but if you're not familiar with that poem, basically there's this super angsty persona, and he's just all anxious about, is he going to be able to communicate with women, and is he going to be cool, and all of this, but also this anxiety about aging and other things, just about life. And it's weird because it's something that I know from talking to my own students has connected with a lot of people in high school, even though it's really about aging. And I think it's because that angst, you recognize the angst. And what's super cool too is that Eliot actually wrote it when he was a senior in college. So it was a persona of this old dude, but he was writing as a young person, and I think that angst is what communicates.
Right. And so, like previously mentioned, you have 6 collections, soon to be 7, of your poetry. What has it been like being able to construct your own collections and publish them?
Well, there's so much in that because, there's the writing a poem and then writing another poem.
Right.
And then, but I think for me, the process has kind of been, I write poems for a while, and then at some point I start to see something happening. And then at that point I'm more writing into some realm and thinking about how they come together. The last book, the one that's coming out next year, I think is sort of the exception to that, because it's called Bind, and it's all made up of univocal and bivocal poems, which are poems that only use a single or two vowels or this weird structure. So backstory is I found out that Dante had written about how AUIEO was an obscure Latin word meaning to bind, as with words. Found out that was an urban legend back in the day, but I thought that was a really interesting idea. And so I created forms using AUIEO as a pattern that would happen through a poem, and suites of poems that were univocals, like one's A, the next is you, etc. And so lots playing with that form. And so I guess when I was very, very first starting to think that maybe I was writing towards a book with this, I still had other poems in there that weren't univocal, etc. But this pretty quickly took over as, okay, this is the thing, and those went out. So I mean, it's fun to think about how things come together and what you can do with that.
Yeah. And do you have a favorite collection of yourself, or is it whatever new comes out is the favorite at the time or something?
Yeah, I think it's always the one that you're working on, and then the one that's on its way out, and then on its way out sounded bad. that is going to be published soon, and then the most recent one.
Yeah.
Is,
And then for our parting words, do you have any advice to aspiring poets or just people that want to kind of continue writing in their own field?
Read. Yeah, read. And, if you don't enjoy reading and you don't enjoy writing, obviously there's no reason to do it. So if you're even thinking about it, probably you should be doing it. Probably there's a reason, and probably because you love to read. And if you feel like you're not getting enough or the right kinds, ask somebody, like, who are your favorite poets, or who do you think is somebody that I should read now, right? So if you think that I don't like poetry, then go to some site like Poetry Daily, or pick a living author like Jericho Brown. Check out Jericho Brown, and I think you'll find out that, well, it wasn't that you didn't like poetry, is you hadn't found the poets that you like yet.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching Ram Round Table.